Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Hey there, this is Alan Seals, and you've reached an all-new episode of the Theater Podcast. Our guest is Andrew Samonsky, who I still cannot thank enough for being so open and vulnerable with me, a basically complete stranger right off the bat as we dove into the episode and the conversation. He's obviously just a very transparent guy, and I believe most likely that has helped him land in a successful career on the stage. Speaking of which, he's currently starring alongside Eden Espinosa in the all-new production of Lempicka, which just opened on Broadway. But a heads up, we recorded this episode a while ago, right as they had began rehearsals. So at a point or two, he does refer to opening on Broadway as not yet happened. So like you do, find me on the socials and connect with the podcast, share it with a friend, and everyone now, please enjoy this episode with Andrew Samonsky.
Here you go, 1, 2, 3.
Today's guest made his Broadway debut in the 2008 production of South Pacific and has additional Broadway credits including The Mystery of Edwin Drood and Scandalous. TV credits include Madam Secretary, It Could Be Worse, and Elementary. He's a Disney nerd, a baseball nerd, a High School Musical, the series nerd, and former Grateful Dead fanatic. And now he can soon be seen in the upcoming Broadway production of Lempicka. Andrew Samonsky, welcome to the Theater Podcast.
Wow, you have done your research, my friend. Oh, wow. I forgot some of those things about myself. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, where would you like to start? You wanna just touch on being a Grateful Dead fanatic? Were you an actual roadie that followed them around more or less? Or groupie, not roadie?
Yeah, deadhead, I think is the, official term. Yeah, sure. Let's start there. I came to them late. I went to about 6 shows, and soon after that, Jerry Garcia passed away. So it was a very brief deadhead career, probably for the best, because it was not healthy for my state of being. But yeah, the crazy story is, if we want to go in deep right from the beginning, I was 19. I was following the Grateful Dead. And probably not a surprise, I had a healthy drug problem during that time. And I went to rehab with the support of my parents. And in rehab, I was in these group therapy sessions. And I didn't know why I was there. And they kept wanting me to share. And finally I was like, fine, here's what I want to say. I feel like I can either follow my parents' wishes and become a doctor or a lawyer or something, or I can follow the Grateful Dead. And it just was so black and white to me, my life at that time. And the therapist pulled me aside after the session and said, Andrew, I just want to tell you that your life isn't going to be either of those two paths. It's going to be something that you find for yourself in the middle. And the concept blew my mind, like that there was another path. And so I went back to my little room at the rehab that night, and it was like a 12-step based program, spiritual program, higher power, and I did not have any type of higher power spirituality in my life at the time, but I thought, I'm going to pray tonight. And so I said a little prayer. I said, God, show me my path. And that was it. And I went to bed, and the next morning, swear to God, I wake up and one of the people who worked there, ex-deadhead, came into my room with a very serious look on his face and said, did you hear the news? And I said, no, what? He said, Jerry Garcia just died this morning. And it was like, oh, the whole path was just, one of them was just gone. And the addendum to that story is, while I was in rehab after that, my old voice teacher sent me a beautiful letter saying, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone, but I think you might have what it takes to have a career as a singer. And that's what started my path. And so she helped me get into Cal State Northridge in their classical singing program. And the rest is, as they say, history. That's where it kind of started for me. Wow. So the death of Jerry Garcia kind of instigated my my performance career in a way.
Wow, I brought that up as sort of like a lighthearted icebreaker, but man, that sets the stage for everything.
Right? I know. It's a wild story. It really is. Now I don't think I killed Jerry Garcia by praying that night, but there was a weird coincidence. So,
Well, it depends. Depending on who you talk to, there is no such thing as coincidence. But it's just you
Right.
needed to be at the right place at the right time, and you got the message when you needed it. I guess, depending on your definition of spirituality. And it's funny that your voice teacher too was like, I'm teaching voice. Obviously, I have experience in singing. I'm a voice teacher. I wouldn't wish this on anybody except for you.
Right.
But you can do it. You can do it. It's cool. It's cool.
but it's true. It's like it's so hard. I mean, how do you know? It's what they say. Don't go into show business unless there's nothing else you could possibly do. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
Well, that was something that somebody had told to me once. They're like, if you can see yourself doing anything else, do that. Do whatever
Right.
else you can see, because it's so hard. It's just so hard. And so we'll get into the modern career and the success you're having now. But I want to rewind back again because I was reading. Right, you were born on a Navy sea base in California. Is that right? Navy CB.
I am so impressed. This is something. I mean, yes, you're right. You're right. I mean, you're going to be right about everything about my life. It's amazing. I was born. My dad is a Vietnam veteran. I grew up in Ventura, in California, north of LA, and close by in what's called Port Hueneme is a Navy CB base, and my parents would go down there, do their shopping, and there are a lot of kind of free perks on the base if you're a veteran or active military. And so they would use the medical facility there, and that's where I was born. Fast forward 30 years later, I'm making my Broadway debut as a CB in South Pacific. So another crazy story. There you go.
That's cool. I mean, it feels like everything that you've embraced in life has just basically been a callback to something that's happened to you previously. So it's exciting to see that kind of unfold. But like born in on the base in California. So then when you were a kid, were you still performing? Or when did you start performing? Was it singing, dancing, acting, just being a ham? For me, it was just like, I just wanted the attention.
Yeah, I have the completely opposite story. I was a very shy child and had no interest in bringing attention to myself. Quiet kid. My parents once went to in elementary school, they went to the parent teacher meeting, and the teacher, my parents came in for the meeting and sat down and said, "Oh, our son is Andrew Samonsky." And she said, "Who?" Because I was that kind of quiet of a kid in class. She had no recollection that I was even in her class. But for whatever reason, I mean, here's the story. I did like to sing, and I loved music, but I never wanted to perform in front of anyone. In third grade, I had a short solo in our, elementary school show. I got stage fright. I forgot the lyrics. I had a total meltdown on stage. You would think I would never want to do that again. And yet in fifth grade, for whatever reason, I auditioned for our school show of George Washington and got the part of George Washington. And I came home that day and I said, "Oh, Mom, I auditioned for the school show." And Mom was like, knowing me, was like, "Oh, that's nice, honey." And I was like, "And I got a part." She probably thought what, like some kid in the background. And I said, "No, but part of George Washington." And she was floored. I don't have any conscious memory of, I want to do this thing. I love to do this thing. But clearly there was something about performing that allowed me to be or reveal more than I could in the in the real world, I don't know. I don't have like a thought about how that manifested consciously, but clearly it happened. And I would sing in church, my mom's church, shows and stuff like that. But I was a jock. I mean, I played soccer and baseball and was a very good soccer player in high school. And that's what I did, moving up to high school. And it wasn't until I played some volleyball and I got a serious back injury that prevented me from playing sports that year that my mom suggested I try out for the school musical. Once again, not an outgoing person, but I auditioned. And once again, I got the lead. It was a Celebration by the same guys who did the Fantastics, which is kind of which is basically the Fantastics on acid. So it's a very weird show.
Calling back the Grateful Dead. Good. Okay.
Yeah. And I got the kind of the lead, kind of El Gallo part of the narrator, and I then started taking some drama classes in high school. Which I really enjoyed, and that started like, oh, I do enjoy this. This is fun. Again, no thought in the world that I would do it as a career. But then cue to a year after my first year in college, where I was the deadhead, kind of going nowhere, nursing a very healthy drug habit, and where things really changed in rehab. So yeah.
Well, okay. If I may, then turning to drugs for a second, what was being solved for you through that outlet, right? Because there's a lot of reasons people will use, and depending on what they're using and how often, right? They're trying to soothe, or they're trying to cope, or they're trying to whatever. Do you remember at that time sort of what purpose it was giving you?
You were hitting on something that I'm not sure I've ever totally made the connection that I think I'm making now. But yes, like I said, I was a very shy, I would say fearful child for no reason really. My parents were wonderful. They loved me so much. They do anything for me. They never pushed me really to do anything or be anything. My dad's very outgoing, and he just kind of accepted that his child was not like him. And I mean, he certainly would embarrass me at times and stuff, but by his behavior. But that's
a dad's job. That's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, but they loved me so much, and so when I found alcohol and then other drugs, it was this relief. I suddenly felt a part of this world. I was always on the outside looking in. I say sometimes, the Truman Show. Before the Truman Show, I had these kind of Truman Show ideas about myself, that I was this kind of experiment that some aliens were like looking down on. I would even had this thought that I would get in the car and all the windows on the car were actually like screens that just looked like I was going somewhere, but they were changing all the scenery outside the car, and I would just get outside and it looked different, but I was in the same place. I mean, very self-centered, kind of self-absorbed thinking. But yeah, that's, for some reason, that was my kind of chemistry or psychology growing up. And the drugs and alcohol, just all of that vanished. And I could go into the party, or I could go into a social situation, or just sit there and feel like, I'm okay. I'm comfortable. I'm a part of, I'm connected to this thing instead of disconnected. And so it was a lifesaver when I found it. I mean, and quite quickly it started, having its problems, but it was kind of a miracle cure for me at first. And the connection I'm making is that's after I got sober, I was suddenly I had to relive all of that discomfort again. Like, I didn't have those substances to comfort myself anymore, or feel a part of anymore. And I was kind of like a live wire for first few years after I got sober. And theater is really what saved me then. That community, that ability to kind of be yourself, explore parts of yourself, explore your discomfort, connect through the storytelling of your challenges, struggles, fears, hopes, dreams, all these, grand themes that we explore in the theater. It allowed me to explore myself and feel connected to humanity through those stories and performing. So it really, I don't think I've ever saw it as the new drug for me. It was much healthier than that. It was a real therapy for me, and I think a lot of performers probably feel that way.
Yeah.
But it really saved my life in a lot of ways. If I had gone into engineering or something, I don't know what kind of a person I'd be today. So,
Yeah. I mean, you gave me the answer that I was 100% expecting. That a
I'm
lot
so
of people.
predictable.
No, I mean it's
No,
it's speaking for myself too, and it's ironic because when I was in high school, especially, this was really prevalent in high school. I would imagine that there were like other people, like aliens, or there was another something seeing what I saw through my eyes. Right, I was performing for some unknown entity. That's how I lived most of my high school life, and I don't actually remember when that stopped, but I 100% can relate with you. Is thinking that you're in the Truman Show sort of thing. Like that's what I just assumed I was doing at some point. So yeah, I guess theater for me. I don't know what that is. I was just Googling real quick while you were talking. I was like, what is it called when you think you're being controlled by aliens? And schizophrenia was the first result, which obviously we're not schizophrenic, but I don't know. I've heard other people also think that way. So merry band of misfits we are. We'll just go with misfits.
Well, there's plenty of sci-fi novels and movies that explore all these ideas. So clearly we're not alone in these thoughts. And I think that's and so theater, art, storytelling gets to explore these, human phenomena, and it allows us to not feel so crazy, so everyone or most people feel this way. Oh, thank goodness I'm not alone. I just think that might be the most powerful thing we can give someone or give ourselves, is the idea that we are not alone with our own thoughts and feelings. Because once we feel that those walls coming in ourselves, you can kind of get into a spiral of hopelessness and despair that can be very dangerous. And art and theater can really save us from that. So,
time for a quick commercial break. Hang on a second. Welcome back to the episode. All right. Well, shifting over to Lempicka, you've been in it since the workshop, and I'm so curious to know how you all got connected in the first place and where it started. But what was this? You have again, sort of the spiritual, cosmic connection with this show because of your Peace Corps pen pal best friend from about 22 years ago. What is that story?
Okay. Yes. My best friend from college, a wonderful man named Barton Bryan, after college went into the Peace Corps and went to Mauritania, Africa, which is West Africa, and was there for 2 years. And we were pen pals, kept in touch. We're both kind of adventurous spirits. Him clearly more adventurous than I was. I did not go into the Peace Corps. But at one point I said, hey, bud, how about I come and visit you? And so I actually did go over there and visit him for a couple weeks, which was a very eye-opening experience. But while we were pen pals, he writes me about this other Peace Corps volunteer in Mauritania saying, hey, Andrew, because I was in grad school for acting at the time. And he says, Andrew, man, you got to keep your eye out for this guy, Matt Gould. He is a Peace Corps volunteer here, and he writes musicals, and they're great. So, keep your eye out. And I was like, and I read this and I rolled my eyes. I was like, yeah, sure, Bart. I'll keep my eye out for the Peace Corps volunteer in Africa writing musicals, And so I get this offer to go to Williamstown. Amazingly, I didn't have to audition. I think I filled in for someone at the last minute. And I listened to about 30 seconds of the demo and I was like, oh, I got to do this. This music's incredible. And first day of rehearsal at Williamstown, I go right up to our composer, Matt Gould, and I say, "Hey, Matt, my best friend from college is Barton Bryan." And his jaw just was on the floor. Yeah, it's been this cosmic connection. I need to plant more of these things. I just need to start saying things and then they'll come true like 20 years later, because this does seem to be a theme of this podcast today. So, and luckily, I think from the first read through, I mean, from their words, not mine, they told me, like, from the first read through that day, they were like, "Oh, we found our Tadeusz." And Tadeusz is the name of my character, who is the husband of Lempicka, played by Eden Espinosa. And I've been with the show ever since. That was 2018. Did a bunch of readings since then, and we did La Jolla. And Matt and I had this, connection that has only grown. He is just a beautiful human. Obviously, anyone, I think, who goes into the Peace Corps is probably a special person, and he certainly is, and has a huge heart. And so I'm a huge fan of him, just personally, and he writes some exquisite music. I cannot wait for people to hear this stuff. He is really a tremendous talent that I'm so glad the world is getting to finally see.
Well, I enjoy the concept behind Lempicka is, and there's nothing against jukebox musicals. They all have their place, but I love that Lempicka is an original story. It's not an adaptation of a book or a movie, right? Mm-hmm. So, but Lempicka was a real person. Tamara, is it Tamara or Tamara? Tamara de Lempicka? Tamara, yeah.
Yeah.
So Tamara de Lempicka was a Polish refugee who, if I'm getting my facts right, she's been credited with basically popularizing and mastering Art Deco, right? This now very popular artistic style, portrait style.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's the funny thing is, I don't think she has been given the credit for mastering and popularizing that art style. And so hopefully this show gives her more credit. I mean, at the time, obviously she was very renowned and was like kind of a portrait painter to the stars, and has this. I like to say she has this very kind of Les Miséan life. Just her life spans the Bolshevik Revolution, 2 world wars, and the art scene in Paris, thriving, famous art scene back then. So there's a lot of history in her life beyond art, as well as art. You learn a lot about history and humanity, and most importantly about her and the obstacles, struggles that she just kind of barreled through to find her place in the world and make art that she believed in. So it's really a fascinating story about her.
The whole time there was a lot of political revolution too, because even today, your character you were married. Your character was married to Lempicka for a time, and what's the significance of your character? Because I was trying to find more about this, and all I got was, a significant figure in Polish history, an advocate for social justice and workers' rights, and played a key role in struggle for Polish independence. What more to it did Tadeusz bring into this world of Lempicka's?
In our story, which our writer, I think, has researched very well, but he started out as a Polish aristocrat living in St. Petersburg, and he was kind of the catch of the town, and Lempicka, very ambitious, landed him, and she probably shouldn't have, because she was not from as good of a family, but he was taken with her. And soon after that, the Bolshevik Revolution happened, and so all the aristocrats were kicked out of Russia, obviously, and they escaped to Paris and were destitute. And I think he was very bitter about that part of history and his life and his lineage, and so she kind of had to take the reins for a while, which is why she started painting, making money through her painting to support the family. But they were connected, in my view, they were connected through this as family, kind of through this trauma as refugees. I mean, there's actually a lot more to it that you'll learn in the story about how she got him out of prison. She basically rescued him from prison and then escaped to Paris. So they had, I think, one of those bonds born out of trauma and challenge and obstacle. And they had this daughter that they raised in Paris. So, not a spoiler, but it was a complicated marriage. She took lovers often with her subjects, and he probably did the same on the side. And eventually, I think those challenges became too much, and he moved back to Poland and married again. But they clearly had a bond. I mean, I've met the granddaughter and great granddaughter of Lempicka.
Wow.
And the great granddaughter told me that Lempicka had always said that Tadeusz was the love of her life. There was clearly a strong bond between the two of them, but circumstances were clearly so challenging that it's not always meant to be a lifelong commitment, perhaps, but clearly they went through a lot together.
Well, I think if you're going through any sort of revolution, you're going to be bonded with
Right.
those people that you're going through. Again, it's interesting kind of tying this back to, I guess, her need to paint, her need to express herself, her need to be in the arts, to what we were talking about with you in the very beginning. Is there's probably a need to feel seen, because as a woman in a very male dominated field especially back then, being seen, being made to like she needed to feel independent. She needed to feel like she was making a difference, right? And I'm so excited. I haven't seen any incarnation of Lempicka yet. I'm so excited to see this because I've heard such amazing things about this, and Rachel Chafkin
good.
directing it, knowing how she puts women forward in her productions to be strong and independent, and very, very appropriately so, right? She chooses these projects that are going to showcase this sort of thing. I am so excited to see how Lempicka hits the stage on Broadway with the creative team that's behind it now, and then the cast that's in it with you and Eden and everybody else. It's Beth Level. Come on, I mean, you can't beat this. This is going to be, it's going to be incredible. Have you seen the incarnations, like from the workshop to all the different various productions and what you're doing now? How has it evolved now? Like, what would you say is probably one of the biggest things that's been improved upon now that we're going to see on Broadway versus how it started?
I would say this. We had our production in Williamstown, I thought was really thrilling, and had a workshop, and then did La Jolla, and some significant changes were made. The opening of the show was very different. New songs throughout the show, basically similar structure, but a lot of changes. And there were some things that were exciting about La Jolla, and there were some things that I thought maybe we missed. And so in that year and a half since La Jolla, I truly feel it, and is that we have kind of taken the best from Williamstown and the best from La Jolla and put it together to be, I think this is the best version of our show that we've had yet, and that's all credit to our writers and team. But in my mind, I was like, I've agreed with everything I've seen them do. Like, so it's been really thrilling just to kind of trust your team to be like, they're making the right decisions. It's nice to see them seeing the same things you do at times, and not that I'm always right either, but you're like, they know what they're doing, and they really do. So that's not always the case. With a musical, you can kind of diminishing returns. If as a musical is around too long, you can start kind of losing grip of it, and like it just kind of goes off the rails. But I truly believe that it has been the exact opposite in this case. It keeps getting stronger and stronger, and we're in a really exciting place with this version. So
I can't wait to see it. And there's nothing that Eden does that I have not liked. Like she just brings everything. And same with Beth. Yeah, Beth Lovell.
I'm telling you, get ready. This is the role of a lifetime for her, and she is the woman that is needed in this moment for sure.
Time for a quick commercial break. Hang on a second. Welcome back to the episode. Have you been enjoying the process of originating this role, of being such a cornerstone of the story and being able to originate it from, over all these years and incarnations? Or is that like extra pressure that you're like, oh, just rather step into something that's established?
I kind of came into this business feeling like I was a very good mimic. Like I would see a performance and be like, oh, I could do it like that. So there is kind of a weird feeling when you don't have anything to go off of. It's much more vulnerable to be like, well, I guess I'm just going to bring myself, and hopefully that's good enough. Luckily, I will say, I don't know if I could have done that, 10, 15, 20 years ago. I don't know if I had the self-confidence to share myself so completely in a production in this way. So I feel very empowered doing this role. That the team has just made me feel so, powerful and positive, and like they clearly are happy, and I'm still in the show, so that's a win. But no, it truly, I feel like they trust me, I trust them, and I can really just start exploring how this role fits on me, and that's a really daunting but fulfilling endeavor for sure, like nothing else that I've ever done. I don't think I have. Well, I guess I've originated some other musicals, regionally and stuff. But at this magnitude, and a character, personally, that is so flawed and complicated that you're not doing a obviously not a caricature or just some standard leading man or lover or whatever. These are real people, literally, from history, and you have to give them all of the humanity that they deserve and that we experience. So that's what makes the character so special, the show so special. These are very flawed individuals that you hopefully are relating with and rooting for, because you see yourself in all of them.
I love that. That's a really interesting answer. And saying 20 years ago you might not have the confidence to do it. I just hope you can look back and see the success you've had and how far you've come, and now just realizing for your own mental health, right, that once you open this show, everything after it will be people mimicking you. You've got that position now.
Oh, don't say it. That's
right?
That's a really weird thing to hear.
I don't, not to get in your head, but like you're doing it. You're doing what you wanted to do, and like just be present, be in the moment, and you've been through every incarnation of this production, so you are this role. That's beautiful. So you're doing it right.
No, that's very sweet of you to say. Every now and then I'll have to be like, Kate. Let's just take a minute.
This is Alan breaking in from the editing room just real quick to give context. He's talking about Kate Reinders, his wife, who is also a rather successful actress in the biz.
And because we're always like, what? We're trying to get the next job, or like, are we ever going to work again? Or, wish I got that part, or, and there are just moments where you have to stop and go, Kate, like, we're really doing this thing. Like we've worked with our heroes. It's we think about the childhood dreams that came true for you, Kate. You just forget them. You forget the accomplishments. You only focus on what's next or what's not working. And so every now and then everyone has to take those moments and just be like, I'm doing it. I'm living. I have a lot in my life, just the gratitude. But, yes, we're luckier than probably most in this business that we've been able to make a living. And again, like I make a list of the composers and actors and directors that I've worked with that as a teenager, I would have been like, whoa, are you kidding me? That's who I'm going to get to work with? It would have scared the, shit out of me. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, and all the Peace Corps volunteers you've gotten to work with too. I mean, that's all come back around too. All right.
Man, all these actors, young actors and actresses are just going to start meeting Peace Corps volunteers whenever they can.
I'm going to go to the Peace Corps so I can be on Broadway one day. That's my plan.
Exactly.
All right. So 3 questions I ask everyone to wrap up the episodes. The very first one is just simply, what motivates you?
What motivates me? Well, that changes, I think, through the years. What's motivated me in the past, or what motivates me now?
What motivates you now to get up and pour your cup of coffee, put on your pants, maybe not in that order, go to rehearsal, bring joy to the world?
Not that it's a hard answer. I'm just trying to think of what's the real answer. There's a lot of things that motivate me. I feel so blessed to be in a business, again, that tells stories, that hopefully reveals our humanity, connects people, holds a mirror up to ourselves, the good and the bad. So that feels important. I think it's important. As actors, we can often diminish ourselves, especially when I lived in LA for a while. I was just like, what do you do? Like, oh, I'm an actor, and like as if like I'm like some kind of like not worth much. And it's just such a terrible thing to do to ourselves. As my dad says, he's like, Andrew, what you do is what people after they're done with their work want to go do or see. We provide the real living of life. I think rightfully most people probably don't maybe enjoy their jobs, and after work is where they go find their joy, and they go to the theater or whatever, and we get to provide that place where people go to experience life, and that's a huge responsibility and blessing that I have. So I try to remember that. And it's also just fun. I mean, for me, it's always first and foremost been about the music. Music was kind of my first savior from the discomfort I felt as a child. And so when I just get to go into a rehearsal room and listen to music and sing music and hear others sing or listen to the orchestrations, it's always brought joy to me. So that's another reason to just that I feel so lucky to get to do what I do. And I have a 6-year-old boy, at home, and I want him to see the joy that of what I do. We're not trying to make him an actor in any way, but man, does he love to like reenact things. It's like we watch an episode of The Mandalorian, and for the next like 2 weeks, we're just, Daddy, you're the Mandalorian, I'm Grogu, and we're going to go do this, and blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, oh, okay. And it's wonderful. It's like, oh, I don't want to rehearse. Like, I don't want to, while I'm home, but I'm acting when I'm at home, I'm acting when I'm at work, but it's wonderful, and I see the joy that storytelling brings him, And the way he gets to relate to it, like he'll learn something about humanity. Like we just read the first Harry Potter book, and Harry Potter's, loses his parents, and from the very beginning, he's an orphan. And Luke is like, yeah, Daddy, it makes me sad that he doesn't have his parents. And I'm just like, through this story, he's getting to experience some of these, realities of life, and maybe in a safe way, in a beautiful way. And that's what we're doing here. So I just got to remind myself how important it is what we do. Long-winded answer, but yeah.
I love that. All right. Next question then. What advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now starting out down a similar path?
This is hard for me because, you want to go back. I want to go back to myself and say, Andrew, you don't have to be so afraid. You don't have to be so hard on yourself. Like, you're okay. And yet, it was all those things that happened to me that has brought me here, right? So it's hard to wish at times anything different upon myself, but I see myself doing it through the parenting of my child. Like, I want to save him from this discomfort, or at times I want to teach him this discomfort because I feel it is important. And that's where it gets confusing for me. Like, oh, do I want to teach him this or not? It's the ongoing battle of what do I wish was different for my son that was for me. And he's just so different on his own that I guess he's not shy the way I was, which is wonderful. He speaks his mind, let me tell you. And he wears his emotions on his sleeve where I kept it all in. And so in that respect, I'm already just like, dude, just be yourself, man, and let me nurture that and help lift you to wherever, it leads you. So I would just say find you, whatever that means. It's an impossible question to ask yourself. Like, what is my authentic self? I find that a wildly impossible question to answer sometimes. But if just keep exploring, don't be afraid of the discomfort, but find healthy ways through it. I think that would be it. Find the healthy ways through your discomfort instead of the destructive ways, which is what I unfortunately found for a little while and was lucky enough to find my way out of it. Yeah.
All right. So this is the last question here and the hardest one. If you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
Oh my gosh. How do people answer this question?
Very similarly to how you're doing it right now.
Well, okay. So you got a lot to go with here. Like, do you just want to pick one that has kind of the most different elements to it, so you can just like, oh, because I like, something that's just kind of a lot of the same type of thing might get a little boring. Something with a little more that's varied to kind of keep you interested, or like, oh, I'm just going to listen to this part. I don't. Immediately comes to mind to me is just Les Mis. It's got a little humor to it. It's obviously got a lot of different characters that you can go to. It's got some interesting history. It's got some beautiful relations. It's got love stories and stories of history. So I feel like that's just a solid choice. I feel like that's kind of like the practical choice. I've always said Sweeney Todd is my favorite musical, but man, that's pretty dark, and I'm not sure that I feel like I would just be living in a pretty dark space if that was the only musical I could see over and over. So Les Mis is heavy too, but let's just go Les Mis.
Okay, we'll go with Les Mis. All right, where can we find you online? Do you play the social media game?
Yeah, I try. Instagram's probably the best place to find me. I'm at A Samonsky. I have some distant relative that has the handle Samonsky, and I've DM'd this. They have like one post. They don't answer the DMs. I'm like, hey, So I had to go with A. Samonsky. That's my Instagram. That's probably the best place to find me. So yeah.
And I followed you on Threads earlier too, so you're at least on Threads.
Okay.
You've got one post on Threads.
See,
You're like,
killing
nice
it.
to meet here, or nice to see you, whatever it is. And that was like,
Yeah.
right with Threads open.
And then I ghosted everyone. Yeah.
You can get more of me at thetheaterpodcast.com. I am on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at theater_podcast. Leave a rating and a review wherever you're listening. Turn to your friend next to you and be like, hey, friend, I just listened to this awesome episode with Andrew Samonsky. You should check it out. Thanks to Jukebox the Ghost for the intro and outro music. And thanks most of all to you, Andrew, for a lovely, lovely conversation. Thank you for being so vulnerable so early on. I think it opened up for a lovely chat.
Well, I'm telling you, this was an absolute pleasure to do and talk with you and connect with you. You've created something really lovely here. So thank you for having me be part of it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.